Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our virtual Mishnah Berurah here. We pick up today in Mishnah Berurah Chelek Hey. We're continuing Hilchas Pesach. We are holding today. Today's daf is going to be Tzadik Aleph Amid Aleph, but we're actually beginning near the bottom of Tzadik Amid Beis in the Shulchan Aruch Siman Tuf Pei Gimel Din Misha Ein La Yayin, the halacha of one who does not have wine available to himself for the Seder, Ubay Sif Echad, and here we have one Sif. So what do you do if it's the Seder night? You're sitting down to the Seder, but you don't have any yayin. So what are you going to do? Dalet Kaisais, Kiddush, etc. Let's see what the Shulchan Aruch says. Zok the Mechaber. Mi she'ein la yayin b'leil Pesach. Somebody who does not have any wine on the Pesach night. And like the Mishnah Berurah is going to say, the Mechaber is addressing specifically the case over here of someone who has no wine. He doesn't have a limited amount of wine, he has no wine. What you should do if you have a limited amount of wine, that will be discussed in the Mishnah Berurah. And the Mechaber right here is discussing somebody who has no wine. So, Misha ein lo yayin b'leil Pesach, if somebody does not have any wine available to him by the Seder night, Mekadesh al hapas, he should make Kiddush on the matzah. We know that all the time there is always the option of making Kiddush ala pas, making Kiddush on bread. We typically make Kiddush on yayin, but it is possible to make Kiddush ala pas. Indeed, there are those Rishonim, most notably the Rush, who hold that this is a lechatchila option. If you want to make Kiddush on Friday night and you happen to like pas better than yayin, you don't like wine, you don't appreciate wine. And for you, a nice, hot, fresh-baked challah is more chashuv than wine. According to the Rush, lechatchila, you always have the option of making Kiddush ala pas. According to the other Rishonim, really, yayin is more lechatchila. But if you have to, if there's a need to, you could make Kiddush ala pas. Whenever I learn something or hear something about Kiddush ala pas, I'm always remembered, I heard in a shir from the Frierdiker Klausenberger Rebbe, Zechat Tzaddik V'Kadosh Livracha, he was talking about when he was taken into Auschwitz. And he said that on the train going to Auschwitz, they barely, if anything, gave them anything to eat. I seem to remember he said it had already been over 24 hours, maybe even 2 days, that he hadn't eaten anything. And when they got there, they gave them, in his words, a Michael was a gehesen fleischiks. In other words, a dish that was purported to be fleischiks. It was purported to be a meat dish. So es given Fleisch, so es given Streu, weiß ich nicht. He said whether it was meat or it was straw, I couldn't tell. I don't know. But whatever it was, he didn't want to eat it because if it was fleischiks, if it was meat, so it's tarfus. He said, tarfus zolachesen, I should eat tarfus. He wasn't going to eat tarfus. Even after having fasted for, I think it was close to 48 hours, he wouldn't eat it. He said the next day was Friday. It was Erev Shabbos. And again, they brought them this dish that supposedly was a meat dish, and he wouldn't eat it. And he said that by the time Friday night came along, he was so weak, he couldn't even stand. And he was laying there in the barracks, and they called a roll call. And not to go out to a roll call was a real sakanas nefashos. So if you didn't go out to a roll call, they would very easily kill you. But he had no strength. He couldn't go out. So he remained alone in the barracks. To make a long story short, somebody came to the barracks looking for him and gave him 2 loaves of bread and a thing of marmalade. He asked him first, are you the Klausenberger Rav? And he said, yes. And he gave him the 2 loaves of bread and the marmalade. So the Klausenberger Rebbe says how he sat down Friday night in the barracks in Auschwitz and he made Kiddush al hapas. He made Kiddush on Lechem Mishnah, on 2 loaves of bread. And he had a Suda Shabbos. He said if you would have given him $2 million, instead of those 2 loaves of bread and the marmalade, it would have been worthless. He got 2 loaves of bread and marmalade in Auschwitz. Can you even begin to imagine? But not only that, he made Kiddush ala pas, and he made a Suda Shabbos. So that's what I think of when I see Kiddush ala pas. So the Mechaber says here, you have no wine by the Seder night. So the first thing you're going to do is Mekadesh ala pas. You're going to make Kiddush over the matzah. Now, certainly, it goes without saying, the Mechaber doesn't mention it, but since you're going to be making Kiddush ala pas, you're going to have to wash the Tilas Yadayim first. So you're going to go wash the Tilas Yadayim, and then you're going to make Kiddush ala pas. And now the Mechaber explains, Shemavarei chamoitzi, when you make Kiddush ala pas, how do you do it? So normally when you make Kiddush al hayayin, the first bracha that you make is Bayre Pri Hagafen, on the yayin. Now, because you're making Kiddush ala pas, the very first bracha that you're going to make is going to be Hamaitzi Lechem and Aretz. You're going to make the Hamaitzi on the matzah. Then, right after making the Hamaitzi, Ubaitzeya, then right away you're going to break a matzah. Now we'll have to see exactly what are you going to break, but you're going to have to break one of the matzahs right now, right after you make the Hamaitzi. Then, umaniach yadav alav, then you put both of your hands on the matzah, ad shegaimer hakiddush, and you hold the matzah until the end of kiddush. Umevarech al achilas matzah, and then at the end of kiddush, at that point, you're going to make the bracha of asher kiddishanu b'mitzvaysa v'tzivanu al achilas matzah va'oichel, and then you're going to eat the kazayas of matzah to be yotze the mitzvah of achilas matzah by the Seder night. So that's going to be your moitzi matzah. So again, to recap, what are we going to do over here? We don't have wine. So instead of wine, we're making kiddush ala pas. So the first thing we're going to do is wash the tilas yadayim. After we wash the tilas yadayim with a bracha, because we're going to make hamaitzi and eat matzah, so you're going to wash the tilas yadayim, make a bracha on the tilas yadayim. Then you're going to sit down. You're going to take the matzah. Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech ha'olam hamaitzi lechem in the aretz. Right after hamaitzi lechem in the aretz, you're going to break a matzah. Now, the reason you're breaking a matzah at this point, right after the hamaitzi, is because when we say kiddush, and when we make the bracha of al achilas matzah at the end of kiddush, it has to be al haprusa. It has to be over a broken matzah, because we need lechem aini. And since we're making kiddush al hapas, we want the kiddush of the Seder night to be recited over lechem aini. So we made al natilas yadayim, then we made hamaitzi, we broke a matzah, so now we have a prusa. Now we're going to hold the matzah. Same way, when you make kiddush, usually you hold the kais of yayin. Now you're not using yayin, you're using matzah. So now you hold the matzah, you recite the rest of kiddush, including the bracha of shehechiyanu. At the end of the shehechiyanu, then you make the bracha of asher kiddishanu b'mitzvaysa v'tzivanu al achilas matzah. And now you go right away and you eat the kazayas of matzah, l'shem mitzvahs matzah, to be mekayim the mitzvah of al achilas matzah. Now let's break over here for a moment and let's see the Mishnah Berurah over here. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Eis Katan Aleph on Tzadik Amud Beis. Misha ein lo yayin, somebody who does not have wine available for the Seder. Hainu she'ein lo klal. We're addressing specifically over here the case of somebody who has no wine at all available to him. Aval, however, im yesh lo yayin, if he does have a limited amount of wine, afilu rak al kais echad, even if he only has one kais of wine available to him, v'hu adin sha'ar mashkinim hu chamar medina, or if he has some other type of beverage that qualifies as a chamar medina, it qualifies as a chashav, a beverage that you would serve to a guest, something that's right to make kiddush over. So then if you have, let's say, one kais of yayin or another chamar medina available to you, then you kadesh alav, then you should make kiddush on that wine, v'lo yikadesh alapas, but you should not make kiddush alapas. Even if the rest of the year, on Friday night and on Yom Tov night, you have the tradition to make kiddush alapas, if you're accustomed to making kiddush alapas, why would you do this? So like I said earlier, according to the Rush, if pas is more chaviv to you, if you like pas better than you like yayin, so according to the Rush, all year round, you have the option of making kiddush alapas. Says the Chavetz Chaim here, however, even if the rest of the year on Shabbos and Yom Tov, you have the minig of making kiddush alapas, still by the Seder night, even if you only have one kais available to you, you should use it for kiddush. You should not make kiddush alapas. You should make the kiddush tafka on the yayin. Nevertheless, by the Seder night, when the chachamim were misaken a mitzvah derabanan that you should drink dalit kaisais, tiknu lekadesh ala yayin v'loy ala pas. By the Seder night, there's a special inyan, a takanas chachamim, that kiddush should be made al hayayin, not al hapas. So that's what you do if you have one kais. If you have one kais available to you for the Seder, you use it for Kiddush. V'im yesh lo shnei kaisais. Let's say you have two kaisais of yayin available for the Seder. How should you prioritize the use of those two kaisais? Says the Chavetz Chaim, Yekadesh al Harishain. First, you should use the first kais that you have available to you for Kiddush. V'achakach yomer ha'haggadah b'loi kais. Then you should recite the Haggadah. You should do Magid without a kais, and you'll make the bracha of Gal Yisrael, but you won't make a bracha of Bari Pri Hagafen. You're not going to drink a second kais. Uberkas hamazon yavarech al kais hasheni, and you'll use the second kais that you have available to you for what we usually call the third kais. You'll recite Berkas hamazon ala kais, and you'll use it for the third kais. Now, why are you giving priority to the third kais? And really, if you think about it, there is a reason why you should give priority to the second kais. We know we have a rule, ein ma'avirin ala mitzvahs. We don't want to pass by a mitzvah. So if you're coming to the second kais first, why don't you use whatever kais you have available to you? You used one kais for Kiddush. You have a second kais available. Use it for the very next kais. Use it for kais sheni. Why are you skipping over kais sheni and holding back the other kais that you have available for kais shlishi? Explains the Chavetz Chaim that there's a reason to. Because over here, by using it for the third kais, because by reserving the kais for the third kais, there's also, you'll be mekayim the shita that holds the svirlahu, the berkas hamazon to una kais. We know that there's always a shita that holds that berkas hamazon is supposed to be accompanied by a kais. So there's a double reason to use the kais that you have available for the third kais. One is the mitzvah of the third kais. The other one is there's a shita that says that Berkas Hamazon should always have a kais. So if you have a kais, use it for the third kais, not for the second kais. Let's say you have three kaisais available to you. Then mekadesh al echad, and you're going to use one for Kiddush. V'omer Haggadah al echad, use the next one for the Haggadah. And like the Shulchan Arav, I believe it is, says, I think it's the Shulchan Aruch Harav. I think the Shulchan Aruch Harav says that if you have another, we said the first kais you use for Kiddush, then you're going to use another kais for the third kais. Now you have another kais available to you, so you have a choice. You could either use it for the second kais over the Haggadah, or you could reserve it for later in the Seder and use it for Hallel. So then the halacha is say the Haggadah ala kais. So you'll have a first kais, a second kais, a third kais, and you won't have any yayin for the fourth kais. Why do you prioritize the kais sheni over the kais revi? So two reasons. One is, like I said before, ein mavirin ala mitzvahs. We don't want to skip by one of the kaises and not use yayin if we have yayin available. That's one reason. The second reason is that the Haggadah is from the ikar mitzvahs of the night. One of the primary mitzvah of the Seder night is the Haggadah. So if we have a choice between Kais Sheni, which is on the Haggadah, or Kais Revi, which is on Chatzi Halal, that we don't even make, well, we do make a bracha on the Halal. But if it's going to be on Chatzi Halal, or it's going to be on the Haggadah, we prioritize the Haggadah. So then, like the Mishnah Berurah says, if you have three kaises of yayin available to you, Mekadesh al echad, you use one for Kiddush, Vaimer Haggadah al echad, you use a second one for the second kais for the Amira Haggadah, or Berkas Hamazon al echad, and you use the third kais that you have available for the third kais for Berkas Hamazon, the Chatzi Halal Shachar Berkas Hamazon, Yomer B'loi Kais, and the Chatzi Halal at the end of davening. What normally we would have the kais revi on that, we're not going to have a kais. I see I made a mark over here for Dirshu footnote 5, but I have a funny feeling that I spoke it out already. Let me just check. Yeah, this is the footnote that brings down the Shulchan Aruch Harav, that the reason we give priority to the kais on the Haggadah, to the second kais, is because of Higadatem Levincha B'Yom Hahu, and because of Ein Mavirin Al HaMitzvahs. Okay, so that was Mishnah Berurah, Ice Cotton Aleph. Now we go to Ice Cotton Bays. Now, if we look back here in the Mechaber told us that the way we're going to make Kiddush Al Pas is first we start with Hamoitzi, and right after we make the Hamoitzi, we break a matzah. Now, That's very interesting. Why do we break the matzah right away? It would seem that the reason we break the matzah before Kiddush, like I spoke out, is because we want Kiddush to be al haprusa. We want the Kiddush to be recited over lechem oini, over a broken piece of matzah. Also, we must break a matzah before the end of Kiddush, when we're going to make the bracha of Asher Kiddishanu b'mitzvayis of Itzivanu al achilas matzah. Because according to some Rishonim, that bracha must be recited al haprusa. That bracha has to be recited on lechem oini. So we must have a broken matzah by the end of Kiddush when we're going to make that bracha. Therefore, we break it now, right after the hamaitzi, so that we get a double benefit. The Kiddush of the Seder night will be recited over lechem oini, and we'll have a prusa, we'll have lechem oini for the end of Kiddush when we make the bracha of al achilas matzah. Now, the Mishnah Berurah says here in Ois Cotton Bays, Ayin Bir Halacha. Take a look at the Bir Halacha. So let's see the Bir Halacha, Dibra Maschil Ubaytseya. Says the Bir Halacha, Ayin B'Magen Avram. Take a look at the Magen Avram. Shakasav, who writes, V'Hiskimu Imay Kama Achrayim, and many Achrayim agree with this Magen Avram, namely Hanachlas Tzvi, V'Hanahar Shalom, V'Hagraz. So they're right. The Divrei HaMechaber, that this psak of the Mechaber, that you're going to break a matzah immediately after making the hamaitzi, lekuchim medivrei harif. They flow out of the words of the rif. V'harif azal lishitase, and the rif follows his opinion. The svirale, because the rif holds, dein tzarich laniach al haseder ki im shtei matzos. The rif held that by the seder on the ka'ara you have 2 matzahs, not 3. Valkein, therefore, even though normally on a typical Friday night or a typical Yom Tov, when you make Kiddush ala pas, or let's say Shabbos day, because whether or not you could make Kiddush ala pas Friday night is questionable. But on a typical Shabbos or Yom Tov, when you make Kiddush ala pas, lo yifrais hapas yigmar Kiddush, you don't break the challah, you don't cut the challah until the end of Kiddush. When you make Kiddush ala pas on Shabbos, you hold the pas, you make Kiddush, and you cut the challah all the way at the end of Kiddush. You don't make hamaitzi lechem in the aretz and then cut the challah and then continue the Kiddush. You cut the challah all the way at the end of Kiddush. So why over here does the Mechaber say that you should break the matzah immediately after the hamaitzi? Explains the Bir Halacha, like I spoke out. Hacha dekaya rachmana lechem oini. Over here, since we have a requirement of lechem oini, and we know that a poor man only has a broken loaf, he doesn't have a whole loaf of bread. For that reason, we want the Kiddush of the Seder night to be recited ala prusa, over lechem oini. But we break it after the hamaitzi, because while we're making the bracha of hamaitzi, tov shiyu shneim shleimim, we want to have 2 whole matzahs for lechem mishnah. Kedei sheyikayim bazel lechem mishnah. V'gam zeh eino li'ikuva, even though it's not li'ikuva, we don't have to have 2 whole pieces. Kedemuchach bator siman taf ayin hey. So, says the Bir Halacha so far, this that the Mechaber says, that you should make the hamaitzi, and then after making the hamaitzi, you should break the matzah, so that the Kiddush should be recited on lechem oini, that comes from the Rif. Because the Rif holds that you're only going to have 2 matzahs. The Rif holds that you only need 2 matzahs by the Seder, not 3. So since you have 2 matzahs, leave them whole until after you make the hamaitzi. That way, by the hamaitzi, you had lechem mishnah, you had 2 whole matzahs, and then break one of them right after the hamaitzi, so that now you recite the Kiddush and the bracha of al achilas matzah over a prusa. However, says the Chavetz Chaim, Aval, however, Lididan, according to our minhag, the Nahaginon l'sader aseder al sholosh matzahs, we typically use 3 matzahs, not 2. Kidelael b'sim tafayin gimel siv daled. So according to us, parsin hamatzah ha'imtzayis l'shtayim betchilas haseder. We could take one of the matzahs and break it at the beginning of the seder before we even begin to recite Kiddush. We don't have to wait until hamaitzi to break the matzah. We could take the middle matzah, break it right away before we even start Kiddush. Now, when we make the hamaitzi, we still have 2 whole shleimim, because we have 3 matzahs. So we have 2 shleimim and 1 broken one. So as far as lechem mishnah, we have no problem. We're saying the bracha of hamaitzi over 2 whole matzahs, that's lechem mishnah, and a broken matzah. And now we have our lechem oini for the rest of Kiddush, and we have our lechem oini for the bracha of alachilas matzah. We'll break the top one all the way at the end of Kiddush after we make the bracha of alachilas matzah. So this psak of the mechaber, when the mechaber says, leave the matzah whole until after hamaitzi, and then break a matzah, that comes from the Rif, who only has 2 matzahs, and that's why we leave both of them whole until after the hamaitzi to be mekayim the halacha of 2 whole matzahs for lechem mishnah. But according to us, we have 3 matzahs. We could break the middle matzah before we even make the hamaitzi. We still have 2 intact matzahs for lechem mishnah, and then we have the middle broken one. With that, we're mekayim lechem oini for kiddush and for alachilas matzah. Okay. Now we go to the Mishnah Berurah Ois Katan Gimel. Umeniach Yodav Olav. So we made the hamaitzi, we broke a matzah, and now we put our hands on the matzah. We hold the matzah. Explains the Mishnah Berurah why are we holding the matzah. Shekevin shemekadish olav, because since we're reciting kiddush over the matzah, mitzvah la'achsai biyadai. There's a mitzvah to hold it in your hand the same way you usually hold the kais. Kishev sha'oiches b'kais shemekadish olav. We know every Friday night, every Yom Tov night, when we make kiddush, we hold the kais. So the same way you hold the kais when you make kiddush al hayayin, you hold the matzah when you make kiddush al hapas. Now let's go back up to the Shulchan Aruch on the top of Tzadik Aleph Amud Aleph. So now you made kiddush al hapas. What's the next step? Oh, by the way, I just want to point out, let's take a look. Let's take a look at the Bir Halacha, Dibra Maschel Ad Shegomer HaKiddush U'Mevarech Al Achilas Matzah. That's at Tzadik Aleph Amud Aleph. The Mechaber wrote that we're going to finish Kiddush, and then at the end of Kiddush, we're going to make a bracha Al Achilas Matzah. When precisely do you make that bracha? Because we know that there's another bracha here that the Mechaber has not mentioned explicitly, and that's the bracha of Shehecheyanu. So says the Chavetz Chaim in the Bir Halacha, Ayin b'Sefer Maimar Mordechai, Shamachriya proves the Birkas Zman b'Klal Kiddushu, that the bracha of Zman, which is the bracha of Shehecheyanu, that's considered part and parcel of the Kiddush. So when the Mechaber says that you complete the Kiddush, and after Kiddush you make the bracha of alachilas matzah, he's including in that the bracha of Shehecheyanu. So you say the Kiddush, you make a Shehecheyanu, then you make the bracha of alachilas matzah. Now, just a little bit of a side point here. We're making the bracha of alachilas matzah all the way at the end of Kiddush after Shehecheyanu. Why don't we make the bracha of alachilas matzah right after the hamaitzi? That's what we typically do by maitzi matzah. We say hamaitzi and alachilas matzah. So when we're making Kiddush al hapas, I might have thought maybe you should make hamaitzi, then alachilas matzah, then Kiddush, then Shehecheyanu, and then eat the kazayas matzah. The answer is, and I believe this is spoken out in the Shulchan Aruch Harav, that we have the rule of tadir v'she'enoi tadir kaidim. We always give precedence to the thing that comes more often, more with greater frequency. Well, over here, what comes with greater frequency? Kiddush or alachilas matzah? Kiddush. We make Kiddush every Friday night. We make Kiddush every Shabbos day. So Kiddush is considered more tadir, more frequent than alachilas matzah, which is a mitzvah that we only have 2 nights a year. So tadir v'she'enoi tadir kaidem puts Kiddush before alachilas matzah. Now, another interesting question, and that is, we're saying over here that what we do is we make Kiddush al hapas. Now, in order to make Kiddush al hapas, you must make the bracha of hamaitzi. And the bracha of hamaitzi goes all the way at the beginning of the Kiddush, because the hamaitzi over here is instead of the bari pri hagafen, if you would be making Kiddush al hayayin. So the same way you always make the bari pri hagafen first, because you're making Kiddush al hayayin, over here you make the hamaitzi first, because you're making Kiddush al hapas. But what we're doing here that's out of the ordinary is we're preempting maitzi matzah. Usually, Kaddish Orchas Karpas Yachatz Magid Rachza Maitzi Matzah. Over here, we're pulling Maitzi Matzah before the Haggadah. We're doing Maitzi Matzah right after Kiddush. Now, we know that that's not so simple. It's not so simple to bring Maitzi Matzah before Magid, because normally the rule of thumb, and we're going to speak this out in the Mishnah Berurah as well, normally the rule of thumb is that the Haggadah has to be recited over the Matzah and the Maror. Now, if you go ahead and you, just bear with me here. I see I have to plug my computer in. Neglected to do that. Let me just fish for the plug here. Got it. If we're going to make Kiddush, and then right after Kiddush, we're going to make the bracha of alachilas matzah, and we're going to eat the matzah, so now the matzah is gone. Now, it's true. You might have 25 pounds of matzah in your house, and you could put all the matzah on the table. But the matzah shel mitzvah has already been consumed. And that's the matzah that we refer to when we say matzah zu she'anu oichlem al shoma. That's the matzah that we want to be reciting the Haggadah over, is the matzah shel mitzvah. And we're already eating that. So why are we doing that? Why instead don't we just make kiddush ala pas? So we'll make a bracha of hamoitzi. Then we'll go ahead and we'll finish kiddush. Then don't make the bracha of alachilas matzah. Take a kazayas of matzah. You must eat matzah because you made a bracha of hamaitzi. So take a kazayas of matzah, eat a kazayas of matzah. So now the bracha of hamaitzi is not a problem, but do not have in mind to be mekayim the mitzvah of alachilas matzah. Then go ahead, do magid, do everything the way you normally do. And when you get up to maitzi matzah, go ahead, take out matzah. Don't make another hamaitzi, baby, because you already made hamaitzi. But now make the bracha of alachilas matzah and eat your matzah shel mitzvah. And the truth is that yesterday we saw sort of a precedent for this, because we said yesterday, what do you do if you only have one kizayis of shmura matzah? We said if you only have one kizayis of shmura matzah, so, okay, when you're ready for shulchan aruch, make a bracha of make a bracha of hamaitzi, eat non-shmura matzah, eat matzah that's not chometz stick, but it's not shmura matzah, so it's not eligible for the matzah shel mitzvah. Eat as much matzah as you want, and then after the suda, make a bracha of alachilas matzah, and eat your kazayis of shmura matzah, l'shem mitzvah, that'll be your moitzi matzah, and l'shem afikaimen. So you're eating matzah before you're eating your matzah shel mitzvah. So why don't we do the same thing here? Why don't we just make hamoitzi by kiddush, eat matzah, but don't have in mind to be mekayim the mitzvah, and then later make a bracha of alachilas matzah and eat a kazayis of matzah in its proper place in the Seder, and that way you're saying the Haggadah al matzah yisumaroirim. Why don't we do that? I was pondering this, and it really was eluding me. The truth is that the answer is rather simple, but I didn't realize the answer even by myself. I picked up the phone and I called up a Pesach, and I asked him this question. And as soon as he started talking, I realized what the answer is. The answer is that in the halacha that we saw yesterday, you only had one kazayis of shmura matzah. The rest of the matzah that you had was non-shmura matzah. Now, non-shmura matzah, you can't be mekayim the mitzvah of alachilas matzah. You can't be mekayim the mitzvah of achilas matzah with non-shmura matzah. So in that case, when you're washing my shulchan aruch and you're eating matzah that's not eligible for the kiyam ha-mitzvah. So that's no problem. Eat that matzah, and then when you're ready to be mekayim the mitzvah with your kazayis of shmura matzah, you'll make a bracha of alachilas matzah, and you'll eat your matzah l'shem matzah's mitzvah. But over here you have shmura matzah. Over here the problem is that you don't have wine, so you made kiddush ala pas. Now, if you make hamaitzi and you do not make the bracha of alachilas matzah, what matzah are you going to eat? You're going to eat matzah that's fully eligible for the mitzvah of alachilas matzah. Well, that we saw earlier in the discussion about maror. We spoke earlier about maror, and we said, what do you do if the only vegetable you have for karpas is a vegetable that's eligible for maror? So we said, in that case, you have to make the bracha, and you have to eat it l'shem maror. You're going to have to make a hadama and alachilas maror, and you're going to have to eat it as maror as well. And we said, why? Why can't you take whatever vegetable you have? Let's say you have romaine lettuce. It's the only vegetable you have. You don't have any other vegetable. So make a berurah adama, dunk it in salt water for karpas, and then later on make a bracha of alachilas maror and eat more romaine lettuce for maror. We said you can't do that. Why? Because memale kreisai b'marar, you're going to fill yourself up. You're going to eat a vegetable that's eligible for marar, and then later in the Seder, you're going to make a bracha of alachilas marar? You ate marar already. What? You didn't have in mind to be Mekayim marar, but you sat there eating marar. You were sitting there eating romaine lettuce, and you didn't make a bracha of alachilas marar. Now suddenly you're going to take the same romaine lettuce and you're going to make a bracha of alachilas marar? That doesn't work. So it would be the same problem here. What are you going to do? You're going to make a hamaitzi over shmura matzah. You're going to go eat a kazayis of shmura matzah, and then a half an hour later, you're going to pick up more shmura matzah and make a bracha of alachilas matzah? You can't do that. So since the matzah you're going to be eating now is shmura matzah, you have to be mekayim the mitzvah of moitzi matzah now. You can't wait. You got to do it now. Okay. So now we covered how you're going to make kiddush ala pas. Now let's go to the Shulchan Aruch on the top of Tzadik Aleph Amud Aleph, where the Mechaber says, "Va'oichel," you made your bracha of alachilas matzah, and you ate your matzah shel mitzvah. And now, right by the ois cut and dalid for the Mishnah Berurah, says the Shulchan Aruch, "Va'achakach oichel she'ar yerakos." After you make kiddush, you're going to have karpas like you normally do. U'misalek hashulchan, and then you'll take the ka'ara away like you usually do. He says you take the table away because they used to each have their own table. And now you're going to do Magid. You're going to recite the Haggadah, and you're going to make the bracha of Gal Yisrael, but you don't have yayin for a second kais. So you're not going to have a second kais. And then you'll make the bracha of alachilas mar, va'oichel, and you'll eat the mar. And then you'll eat your kairech. Right? So you're going to really do, aside from the mitzi matzah that you displaced from its normal place in the Seder, and you brought it forward, and you're doing it right after Kiddush, everything else you're really doing the same. So you're doing really now, if you want to sing the Simanim of the Seder, you're going to have to do Orchatz, not even Orchatz, Rachza, because you're washing with a bracha all the way before Kiddush, because you're going to make a mitzi. So it's Rachza, and then Kadesh, Moitzi, Matzah, because you're eating your Matzah Shel Mitzvah right after Kiddush. Then you're going to do Karpas. Then you're going to do Magid. Then you're going to do Morar, not Moitzi Matzah, Morar, and then Kairech, and then Shulchan Aruch. Okay. Says the Mishnah Berurah, nice cut and daled. After Kiddush and eating your matzah shel mitzvah, you're going to take your sha'ar yerakos. Says the Chavetz Chaim Zehu karpas. This is a clear reference to karpas. The tovel b'mei melach b'chaimitz, which you're going to dip either in salt water like our minig or in vinegar. The kaidam matzah kanog sha'ar shanim ef sholechol. Now, normally when do you eat karpas? Normally you eat karpas kadesh or chatz karpas. So normally you eat the karpas before matzah. Now, tonight you made kiddush ala pas. So tonight you brought matzah all the way to the beginning of the Seder. So somebody might say, so wait a second. So why don't we do karpas before kiddush? The karpas always comes before the matzah. So let's do the karpas tonight also before the matzah. Let's bring karpas before kiddush. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Ef shalechel. You can't do that. You can't eat the karpas before kiddush. Also litoim kaidim kiddush, because you're not allowed to eat anything before kiddush. Now comes an interesting question. Now that you're doing the karpas after the matzah, do you make a bari pri ha'adama on the karpas? Says the Chavetz Chaim, ule'inyan bracha aleim. As far as whether or not you should make a bracha ha'adama on the karpas, talu yadavar. That depends. Be'imu davar shemamshich tavas ha'meichel. If the vegetable that you're eating for karpas is an appetizer, what does an appetizer mean? Like they say in Yiddish, ha'apetit kommt mit essen. When you get an appetite when you start to eat. An appetizer is something that you eat that gets you started. It brings on the hunger. So if the vegetable that you're going to eat for karpas is something with it which is mamshech ha'oichel, if it's an appetizer, then ein mevarach aleim. Then you do not make a bracha of ha'adama on the karpas because you were already washed. And since you were already washed, if what you're eating is something that draws you after the food more, then it's called something dvarim habayim machmas hasuda. Then this karpas that you're eating is a suuda food, which is covered by washing and by the bracha of hamaitzi. V'im lav, but if it's not an appetizer, so then whatever you're eating is not called something that's ba machmas hasuda. It's not considered a suuda food. V'im lav mavarach aleim bar pri adama. Then it's not covered by your bracha rishona of hamaitzi. It's not considered an integral part of the Suda, and then you would have to make Adama. The same way we have those shittas that hold that if you have fruit for dessert by a Shabbos meal, even though you washed, you have to make a Bari Priya Eitz, because we don't consider that fruit to be Dvarim Habayim Machmas HaSuda. We don't consider them to be true Suda foods, so they're not covered by your Hamaitzi. So here too, the Karpas would not be covered by your Hamaitzi, and you would have to make Adama. Then you go ahead after the karpas and you say manishtana and the rest of the Haggadah. Chavetz Chaim points out we're not trying to remove halach ma'anya from the Seder. You're going to make kiddush, and then after the kiddush, you're going to eat the matzah, and then you're going to eat the karpas, and then you're going to say halach ma'anya, and then manishtana, ad gal Yisrael, all the way through to the end of the Haggadah, to the bracha of gal Yisrael, when you would normally then make a bari priya gafen and drink a second kais. But you don't have yayin, so you're not going to drink a second kais. Ayin b'magen Avram, take a look at the Magen Avram Shekasav that writes, the Yahalalucha lo yomar b'chasima, that on this night, when you don't have enough wine for the kaisais, if you're not going to have wine for the fourth kais, then Yahalalucha lo yomar b'chasima. Then when you say Hallel and you say Yahalalucha, you should not close off Hallel with the bracha of Melech Mehulal Batishpachis. Why? Sheniskana al hakais tafka. Because the Magen Avram says that the Hallel that we say by the Seder with a bracha, that was only niskan on a kais of yayin. You only do that if you have a kais for the fourth kais. But if you don't have a kais of yayin, you don't make a bracha over that Hallel. That's the opinion of the Magen Avram. The Chag Yaakov brings those words. But the Pri Chodesh rules the Nira Yosef Sheyomrena that it seems more proper that you should make the bracha. Like the Ramah writes in the Darkei Moshe Ois Aleph, that we don't need a kais for the bracha of Melech Mehulal Batishpachis on Hallel. The Habba Beis HaKnesses, I remember Hallel b'loi kais. We say Hallel in shul without a kais. The chen is kimu kama achrein. Ois katan vav umevarech al hamorer. Okay, so we did kiddush, we did karpas, we did the Haggadah. Now we go ahead and we make the bracha on the morer. Now in the Dirshu, footnote number 12, he asks over here, why we don't do the morer right after the Moitzi Matzah like we typically do. I think I spoke this out really at the beginning of this year. I'll just remind you. Why don't we do the morer right after the Moitzi Matzah like we normally do? And he explains, because really by rights, we want to say the Haggadah before the Matzah and the morer. We couldn't do it before the Matzah because we made Hamaitzi. Right after we make Hamaitzi, we have to make the bracha of Alachilas Matzah at the end of Kiddush and be Mekayim the mitzvah of Matzah, because once we're eating matzah, we have to be mekayim the mitzvah. But there's no reason to bring the marar to the beginning of the Seder before the Haggadah. So the marar we do in its proper space. Says the Chavetz Chaim here, a nice cotton vav, u'mavarach al marar, v'toiv loy b'charoises, and of course, when we eat the marar, we're going to dip it in charoises like we normally do. Now the Chavetz Chaim brings up an interesting question. Ule'inyan netila shenitz kisharoitza ligmar sudasai. This is a very interesting question. Realize that because we didn't have wine, what did we do? We made Kiddush ala pas. And like I spoke out, if you're going to make Kiddush ala pas, you have to wash the Tilas Yadayim before you make the Hamaitzi. So all the way at the beginning of the Seder, you washed. And right after Kiddush, you made Alachilas Matzah, and you ate a Kazayas of Matzah. But what did you do after that? After that, you went into the Haggadah. And after the Haggadah, you ate Maror. So you had a whole long hefsek between when you washed at the beginning of the Seder and when you finally getting up to Shulchan Aruch and sitting down and eating a meal. Now, does that hefsek require that now you should have to wash again? Ostensibly, in your meal during Shulchan Aruch, you're probably going to want to eat matzah. Now, it's true that you washed and you made a hamaitzi at the beginning of the Seder, but that was an hour and a half ago. So maybe now you were Mesiach Das from your Netilas Yadayim. You didn't have in mind to keep your hands protected from touching a makom metunif, from scratching your head or touching your shoes or touching your kids' shoes or whatever it is. So maybe now, if you want to sit down and eat Shulchan Aruch with matzah, maybe you have to wash the Netilas Yadayim over again. That's the question that the Mishnah Berurah is addressing here. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Ule'inyan Netilas Shenis, as far as having to wash the Netilas Yadayim again, Kisharoitza Ligmar Sudasai, when you're up to Shulchan Aruch and you want to finish your Suda. Masik b'Marmar Mordechai, the Marmar Mordechai concludes that Tzarech Lital Yadav Midina, that Me'ikar Adin, you have to go ahead and you have to wash over again with a bracha of Al Netilas Yadayim to ha'hifsik b'Haggadah of Halela, because you made a hefsik over here. You said the Haggadah, you said Chatzi Halel. V'dumya de Paskina Le'el, this is similar to the psak that we had earlier in Siman Taf Ayin Hey Sef Aleph, the Tzarech Lital Yadav La'achila. Every year by the Seder we wash twice. We wash once by Urchatz, before the Karpas. Since we're dipping a food in a beverage, we're dipping the Karpas in Mei Melach, so we washed by Urchatz. And yet, we wash again by Rachza. So every year we have this question, why are we washing a second time? The reason is, Mishum dehifsik ba'amira haggadah, because we were masik with the amira haggadah, by saying the haggadah. So the same thing here. We washed before we made Kiddush Alapas, then we were masik with the haggadah, so now we should have to have another Netilas Yadayim when we want to eat matzah by Shulchan Aruch. V'achinami dechavasei. So the Maimar Mordechai indeed paskins the after wash again with the bracha. Achein, however, says the Chavetz Chaim, Im kivein benetila rishayna ligmar sudasai. If when you washed at the beginning of the Seder, you realized, all right, this is a strange year, and I'm washing before Kiddush all the way at the beginning of the Seder, and therefore you had in mind that that washing should cover you for the entire Seder, and you're going to protect your hands from touching a davar metunif. So then, masik sham dein tzarech lital shenis, you don't have to wash a second time. The truth is that this is a shiloh all the time that I think most people, unfortunately, don't pay much attention to. And that is, a typical, whenever, Shabbos during the week, by your Shabbos Suda, you go ahead and you wash the Netilas Yadayim. And then in the middle of the Suda, you bend down and you tie your shoes. You touched a makom metunif, or if you have a baby in the house, and you went ahead and you changed a diaper. You have to wash again. Now, I believe that the Bir Halacha, earlier in Hilchas Netilas Yadayim, I believe the Bir Halacha comes out that we should wash without a bracha. But you definitely have to wash over again. You're washing Netilas Yadayim before a Suda to have Yadayim Nikiyos, whatever exactly the takana of Netilas Yadayim is, Mishum Srach Truma, whatever it is. But you're washing to have Yadayim Nikiyos. If you went ahead and you made your hands dirty by touching a makom metunif or dvarim mitunafim, you have to wash over again. Okay, that was Eis Cut and Vav. Now let's go to the Ramah. I know the clock is running a little bit long, but I want to finish the Siman. And if you notice, we have very little Mishnah Berurah left, and this Ramah is not too difficult, so I'm going to push through to the end to keep us on schedule. The beauty of YouTube is you can always watch it in 2 shots if you want. Okay, says the Ramah. Haga, Beloi Bracha. What is the Ramah referring to here? Well, the Mechaber just said that you ate the maror, and now you're going to eat kairach. Now, when you eat kairach, what are you eating? You're eating matzah together with maror. Like we just discussed very heavily, you washed all the way at the beginning of the Seder. You ate matzah all the way at the beginning of the Seder. Now, all the way later in the Seder by kairach, you're eating matzah again. Do you need another bracha rishayna? You had a very long hefsek between the matzah of the Kiddush and the matzah shal mitzvah that you ate at the beginning of the Seder and the matzah of kairach that you're eating now. Maybe you need another bracha rishayna. Says the Ramah, no. Haga b'loy bracha. You're going to eat kairach without a bracha. Says the Chavetz Chaim, is cut and zayin b'loy bracha ritzayna loymar. What the Ramah wants to say is, shein tzarich levarich shein is ala matzah. You don't have to make a new bracha rishayna over the matzah of the kairach. Afagav the hifsik harbe ba'amiras haggadah, even though you had a long hefsik here by saying over the Haggadah, achar habracha rishona sheberach al hamatzah, a big hefsik between the first hamaitzi that you made all the way at the beginning of the Seder. V'achar kach gomer asuda, now after you eat the kairech, you're going to finish shulchan aruch, the chol Seder, and you'll go through the rest of the Seder, beloy kais yayin. However, you won't have any yayin. So you're not going to have a third kais or a fourth kais. Says the Ramah weiter. In Medinas, where they had the minig to allow the drinking of honey mead on Pesach. We discussed earlier that there was a minig in those times. Some locales did not allow for the drinking of honey mead on Pesach because the dvash, the honey that was used in the production of the honey mead, was purchased from Goyim, and very often they would mix in flour. So they did not allow the drinking of honey mead on Pesach. But the Ramah says in locales where they did, the honey mead would be usable for daled kaisais, imen layayin, for someone who has no wine. However, others say that you cannot make kiddush over any other beverage other than yayin on the Seder night. Commotion is parla el Siman ayin reish beis. The Ramah didn't write here reish ayin beis because that would be ra of a hunger. He didn't want to use a bad word, so he wrote ayin reish beis siftes. The linear in the Ramah says, it seems to me, the le'inyan arba kaisais, when it comes to the daled kaisais, yesh lisbay chamada amar de mekadchen al sha'ar mashkinim chamar medina. We could rely on the shittas that say that you could use any chamar medina for kiddush. K'moshen ispar le'el simin ayin reish beis. Let's see the Mishnah Berurah here. In locales where they allow the drinking of honey mead on Pesach, where there were those locales where they did not drink honey mead because of the flour that might be mixed into the honey. The Ramah ruled that there are those that say that by the Seder night you can't use anything for kiddush other than yayin, even not another chamar medina. Commotion is parla el return the lomar commotion is kimsham bahaga the balayla ein lekadish al sharmashkin, that on the Seder night you should not make kiddush on anything else. Aiskat yod yesh lismaich. The Ramah himself says that by the Seder, for the drinking of the daled kaisais, you could rely on the shittas that allow other chamar medina for daled kaisais, kadesh yuchal asas haseder kisidrei, so that you should be able to be mekayim the mitzvahs of the Seder in their normal fashion, or lekayim arba kaisais, to be mekayim the mitzvah of daled kaisais. However, the beverage that you use has to be a chamar medina. Imu chamar medina. Even if the rest of the year this honey mead, this honey water, is not considered a chashuv a beverage, v'rak b'Pesach, and they only drink it on Pesach, gam ken yesh lahakal magen Avram ve'el Yerabah sharei achrayim deloy kechut Yaakov. Ve'efshir oid, it's also possible to say dem shtias roiv ha'amoin lekritz, a apple trank. If a chashuv, a drink by most of the people, is this lekritz, which I don't know exactly what it is, a apple trank or the apple cider, it could be used for the daled kaisais if you do not have wine. Sorry that the clock ran a little bit long on this share, but thank you so much for joining me for this Liman HaTorah. The schos Liman HaTorah should stand God's Klal Yisrael in good stead. The Rebbeinu Shalom should send Yeshuas and Refuas to those in need. The Rebbeinu Shalom should send Parnasa to everybody who is in need. And we should be Zaycha to Simchas and to the Bias Girl Tzedek b'Meher v'Yameinu. Be well.